Hey everyone, it's your favorite gossip girl back with some juicy news. Despite being known as a family man and a very entertaining host, there seems to be some serious allegations thrown at Steve Harvey by his own son, Wynton Harvey. But how true are these speculations about him allegedly abusing Wynton? Obviously, all of these big names and personalities in the industry have some stories and certain behavior behind all the cameras and closed doors. Well, who does know who this man is?
And now, the star of our show, Steve Harvey!
We often see him on television being lively and fun, but it does not mean that he was never stressing out about his own family. Because for those of you who do not know, Steve Harvey has a huge extended family that might be kind of complicated the first time that you will hear about it. Let me introduce to you his family first, shall we?
I have all of our kids here to wish you a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
When he got married to Marcia Harvey, they both welcomed their twin daughters, Brandy and Carly, in 1982. This pair also had a son named Broderick Harvey Jr. in 1991, but they eventually got divorced in 1994. The Family Feud host got married to his second wife, Mary Shackelford, in 1996. They had their son Wynton in 1997, but then got divorced in 2005. Steve had a pretty colorful love life, I know. After 2 years of being divorced from his second wife, he got married once again to Marjorie Harvey and adopted Marjorie's 3 children, Morgan, Lori, and Jason. Steve certainly loves a big family, doesn't he? When Marjorie was interviewed by People in 2016, she stated, "When you're dealing with a blended family, everyone is coming from a place of brokenness. We knew this was right. Now we're mom and dad to everybody." I mean, family set up like this is pretty common these days, and kudos to them for taking responsibility for all their children.
Marjorie and I have a blended family, so it can be challenging at times. And you don't want to hear the phrase, "you ain't my mama."
But they want people to see how happy they are with their blended family and do not really often address the problems that might arise from this, especially among the children. A lot of people have already been speculating even before that, with a big family like Steve's, it would be impossible to give everyone equal attention and love. There would always be someone in the family that might likely feel left out, especially now that they are all grown-ups. You might have an idea who the favorite child is, as a lot of news outlets and social media sources have talked about it. But these rumors about Steve's family are making it look like he is not the family man that he tries to portray. Well, at least that is the case for his biological children, especially to Wynton. Apparently, he had spoken out about how toxic his childhood was like growing up with his dad. It must have been hard for them to build a tight bond with each other, considering that they have different mothers and receive different treatments from their own dad. Apparently, there were claims that Steve became abusive towards Wynton, that the police report about this was actually buried because of his dad's connection and money. It is not really shocking to know that Steve can be kind of strict to his children, but to what extent? Wynton is currently 25 years old, and as I've mentioned earlier, his mom is Mary Shackelford. Steve opened up about his marriage with Mary in 2016, saying, "I got married for the wrong reasons. I was tired of being alone. I have to own that. It was me, not her." Since the separation, Mary has accused Steve of a lot of things and claimed that he cheated on her and forcefully took their son away from her. But Steve clapped back for what his ex-wife said on YouTube and explained that he was awarded primary custody of their son, Wynton. It was even mentioned that Wynton willingly went to him. Since his parents were not really on good terms when they ended their marriage, it is not impossible that Wynton had some unresolved problems growing up. I mean, it must have been hard for him to take in all of that situation when he was just a kid. Add to the fact that 2 years after, his father married another woman and they welcomed the other members of their family. Obviously, according to Steve's statement about Mary, he has had enough of her. Because of his past with Mary, it likely affected his relationship with his own son as well. It was a bitter ending because Mary had huge sacrifices for Steve back when they were still together. She reportedly gave him her savings just so Steve could open his own comedy club. As Mary claimed, Steve cheated on her with Marjorie, Steve's current wife, leading to the falling out of their relationship. Are you also a fan of Steve Harvey? If so, make sure that you subscribe to our channel to be updated whenever we have new updates about Steve's life and others as well. Now, going back to the video. At that time when their divorce was being processed, a lot of people and fans were invested in that drama. They were not getting along and taking jabs at each other. Considering that, those scenarios were never helpful for their son, Wynton. Come on, the child was just 8 years old back then. It was not only Wynton who has problems with his dad, because even his eldest son with Marcia, Broderick, has spoken about his feelings towards his dad. In 2019, he said, "I really didn't have my dad full-time in my life until I was 16. Steve addressed this as well and responded by saying, "I had spent my entire life trying to make up for the mistakes I made as a young man." Steve even featured Broderick's business in his show and said, "The most important thing that I've tried to teach all my kids is the value of hard work and giving back to others. That's why I couldn't be prouder of my oldest son." But even though he was trying to make amends for being mostly absent during the childhood of his biological children, it would not change the fact that it affected them and is continuously taking its toll on them until now. I told you about how Mary made a lot of claims against Steve in the midst of their divorce. She was certainly hurt going through that separation.
When I think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie,
Add to the fact that it was Steve who had primary custody of their son. One of Mary's accusations, though, towards his comedian ex-husband was that Steve had brutally beaten the young Wynton just because he had lied about schoolwork. It was also said that the boy's body was covered in bruises and cuts. After further investigation by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, it was determined that Wynton was at no risk and decided that the case against Harvey be closed. The drama did not stop there, as Mary was charged with contempt of court for leaking sealed information about the alleged incident to the media. Because of that, she was sentenced to 30 days behind bars. Again, Wynton was too young at that time to understand any of the things that happened. He must have looked back on what transpired between his parents now that he's a grown-up. We can only wonder what he thinks of that situation or which side he was on. But one thing is for sure, even though he spent years with his father and is still with him until now, their relationship was not as strong as Steve's relationship with Marjorie's daughter, Lori. Knowing that Lori is one of the most famous among the siblings, Steve was often asked about her and he always had good things to say about her. And even though he is known for being strict, he seems to break a lot of his own rules just to show support to Lori. One source revealed, Steve's got 4 biological kids with 2 previous wives and 3 stepkids with Marjorie. They're driving him crazy. I told you, they might always show that everyone in the family is happy, but it is impossible that it would always be that way. Besides, Steve somehow neglected his biological children and became more focused on Marjorie's children. Since the other 4 saw what he was like with his stepchildren, it must have started jealousy among these children. Wynton is the one who had quite a messy childhood among all of them with regards to how his parents feuded before. Steve should have at least considered that and made sure that he was there for him growing up. But yeah, he was busy and all that, and we got it. For sure, his kids also understood that, especially now as they are all matured enough to get the situation. But even though a lot has been said and done, they could never bring back Wynton's childhood, and right now, what Steve can do is treat him fairly and stop being so obvious about who his favorite is. In fact, it should not only be Wynton whom he should build a strong bond with, but also with all his biological children. No matter how old they get, if they felt like their father neglected them in some kind of way, Steve should at least make some effort to make it up to them instead of only spoiling them with money and giving them the material things that they want. In the end, it would be about his attention and fair treatment among all his 7 children. He should have expected something like this to happen and should have prepared to give equal love and attention to all of them. So that is it. Blended family could be fun and chaotic, but not all children would immediately get the setup, especially if they were introduced to live with other people they do not know about at such a young age. Do you think that Steve is capable of hurting any of his children? Let us talk about it below. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click on the notification below to be updated whenever we have a new update. Until next time, stay tuned for more juicy gossip.